listen. Forgive me, Osceola Tibbs. Been married for about a year now, and I still do that sometimes. Well, I'm sorry to tell y'all, my stepfather, he's a bit preoccupied at the moment, but I'd be more than happy to talk with you if you like. I'm sure the reason you all came down here is because you wanted to see our home, and well, more specifically, you wanted to see the parlor where the two generals met 2 years ago. Well, you're more than welcome to. I'm sure that you all probably came from a long way and everything, and I can also tell you a bit about that day if you all would be willing to stand and listen for a little while. Well, I actually remember that day like it was yesterday. I sometimes find it hard to believe it's actually been 2 years. I remember it was a really foggy day, so foggy in fact you could barely even see 2 feet in front of you. And well, a battle broke out that morning, so my whole family, we went downstairs to wait it out, and well, I just remember sitting down there with my hands over my ears trying to block the noise out the best I could, but it seems like the harder I tried, the more it just kept on seeping in. And of course I was worried about my family's safety, and my betrothed, Thomas Tibbs, well, he was actually out here fighting, I was sure. He was with the Confederate infantry at the time, and well, I couldn't help but think he was out here somewhere hurt, or perhaps worse. Well, thankfully the battle had only lasted a few hours, and after that my stepfather, he came outside and he stood by the gate of our house there, and he tried to see if he could figure out what had happened, and he didn't have too long to wait. One of General Lee's aides, a man by the name of Colonel Charles Marshall, well, General Lee had sent him into the village, and he came riding up to my stepfather when he saw him standing there, struck up a conversation with him. And well, he told my stepfather what had transpired that morning. He said that General Lee had been trying to break through some Union cavalry that were blocking his way west, and while he had managed to break through the cavalry, unfortunately he was met with another Union army, and now that he was surrounded on all 4 sides, he reckoned it was for the best if he met with General Grant and worked out terms of surrender. And Colonel Marshall, he asked my stepfather if perhaps he knew a place that was suitable for the 2 generals to meet at. And well, my stepfather at first, he was very adamant about not letting the soldiers come inside our house. You see, he didn't know what would happen if he let them in, you see. So he offered Colonel Marshall a couple of other buildings in the area, but almost everyone he offered, Colonel Marshall seemed to have some kind of a problem with it, so eventually my stepfather offered up our house, and the Marshal, he found that suitable, and he went off to get General Lee, and well, my stepfather came back inside and told all of us perhaps we should just go upstairs and wait until after the 2 generals left to come back down. Didn't have too long to wait. They were here at about 1:30, and we could hear a little bit about what they were saying, seeing as how we were just right upstairs. I mean, I'll admit, I wasn't a great admirer of General Grant's before the meeting. I mean, we all considered him to be the enemy around here after all. But what he did for our boys in our parlor that day was right nice of him. He promised as long as they laid their weapons down, and promised not to take them up against the Union again, and they'd be free to head on their way home. The whole meeting, it was over by about 3 o'clock, and we all came back downstairs after we heard the 2 generals leave, and we found my stepfather standing in the middle of our parlor looking all flustered. Well, I should say what was left of our parlor. You see, after the 2 generals had left, some of those Yankee soldiers, they'd started going through the room and taking furniture out of it as souvenirs. One of those men, he'd actually ran off with my little sister Lula's old rag doll. I don't know what he wanted with that. I reckon he must have had a little girl back where he was from, and he wanted to take it to her as a souvenir, I suppose. Still didn't seem right, though, him taking another little girl's doll like that, especially without even asking or paying for it first. Well, after that happened, my stepfather, he was quite glad that the soldiers cleared out of there over the next few days, and by the 12th, they were all just about gone. And Thomas, well, he came back that evening, and after all that had happened, we decided we'd get married over the next few months, and after we got married, I actually moved into Thomas's farm just down the road. And I thought things would go back to normal after we got married, or at least as normal as they could be considering all that had happened. Unfortunately, though, Thomas, well, not too long after we were married, he started talking all crazy. He said that he actually missed being a soldier, that it was the only life he'd known for the last 4 years, and well, he was thinking about joining up with the Union cavalry and going out west to help them with the Indian problem. And I put my foot down about that. I told him that I'd waited for years for him to come back while he was fighting with General Lee, and I didn't want to have to go through that again. And I also told him it was crazy for him to think that he could actually join up with the very same army that not even a few months before he'd actually been fighting against. he didn't mention anything more about it, so I reckon he put it from his mind. Fortunately, though, I woke up one morning, not even a year after we'd been married, and found that Thomas had disappeared. It didn't take me much guessing to figure out what must have happened. I knew he'd probably taken off to the nearest enlistment office and joined up with the cavalry like he planned, and for all I knew, he was on a train heading west at that very moment. I was sick off and on over the next few days with what I thought was just worry about Thomas, not knowing where he was and if he was safe or not. However, after a few days of being sick, my mother came down to see me, and she suggested that perhaps I should see a doctor. You see, she was thinking that what I had wasn't just from a broken heart, and it turned out she was right. The doctor came that evening to look me over, and he told me that I was with child and was going to have a baby in the next few months. It was a little girl named Jeannie, I named her. I remember just looking down at her face after she was born and thinking to myself, how my little girl, she might never get to know her father. And after she was born, I just decided I would just come back here and stay with my family again. I didn't have anything at the farm after Thomas left, after all. And little did I know, my family here, they had not been doing so well after the war ended either. You see, my stepfather, well, he made quite a bit of money during the war, but unfortunately, all that money he made, it was Confederate money, so it was completely worthless when the war ended. And he tried to get some business together here to make up for it, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to, so he decided a few months ago it was best if we just sell our home here and move back to Manassas, where we're originally from. I told you folks you were more than welcome if you wanted to come inside and see our house and see the parlor. Well, I suggest you probably do that over the next few days if you're going to be in the area, because well, my stepfather told me and the rest of our family that by this time next week he'd actually like to be back in Manassas. But I don't want to keep you folks standing out here talking all night. I'm sure you have places you need to be, but just remember my offer. If you're going to be in town over the next few days, be sure to stop by and you can actually come inside the house. But you folks have a nice night. Safe travels to you all.